Right, welcome guys. Welcome to another session with Learn with Sid. So today I've got this amazing background. I think the top bit might be cut off, but how cool is that? So today we're going to be learning about rounding. We are on session number 28. So I'm just going to make sure that guys, it's actually live. Let's check. Yeah, I am live. It is working. Brilliant. So I'm a couple of minutes late, but I am here now and we're going to make a start on rounding. So maths is really interesting in that we don't always write the most accurate number because it tends to have so many decimal places. If you've missed the decimal session, you might want to go back and have a look at that as well. So we're going to be looking at rounding today and how we round numbers up to make them smaller. So it's easier to talk about them, it's easier to write as an answer. So we'll be looking at decimal places, and if we've got time, we'll also touch on significant figures. Right, so if you're watching for the first time, give me a shout out. This is Learn with Sid, session number 28. So I'm going to share with you my desk. So let's get this started. So if you're watching live, give me a shout out and I will let everyone know who's watching today. So you're going to need for today's session paper. So I've got paper in front of me. I've got some felt tips over here, and you're going to need a pencil as well. And I've got my camera set up so I can share with you my desk. If we just give me a second, I'll do that now. Okay, so we've got here some paper. We're going to be looking at rounding today. So what I want you to do on your piece of paper is to write a title. We're going to write over here, rounding. And remember to submit your work in by 6 o'clock today, and you can be included in the submissions video, kid submissions video. So we've got rounding. So rounding means making a number slightly bigger or slightly smaller so it looks neater when it's written down. So I'm going to give you some examples of when rounding is actually used. So we've got rounding. Okay, so we're going to have a look at some examples and I'll write those around. So let's start off first of all with a nice whole number. Okay, so we've got number 23. Now you could have whole numbers and you're rounding it up to the nearest 10. What does that mean? So that means we look at this number, you've got units over here, you've got tens over here. We want to round it up to the nearest 10. Okay, so we want to round it up to a 10. Now, to keep its place value, this is going to turn into a 0. But before we round it either up or down, we need to look at the next number that is next to the number we're rounding it to. So here, we're going to round it up to 10, but we look at the units to see what's going to happen to the tens. Okay, so we've got here a 3. Now, if this number is 4, is 1, 2, 3, or 4, so it's 4 or smaller, then we don't do anything. This just stays as 2. If this number is 5 or more, then this is going to change. Okay, now in this particular case, this is 4 or less. 4 or less. So in this particular case, it's not going to change. So this rounded to the nearest 10 is going to be 20. But remember, in brackets, we have to always include how we've rounded it. So we've rounded it to the nearest 10 in this particular case. Oh, we've got some people watching. We've got Minahil and Rayana watching, and I'm super excited. It's their first live session. Please give them a shout. Well, welcome, guys, and hopefully you'll become regulars like everyone else is now. So brilliant. You can always go back and watch the others that you've missed. There's loads of them now. So we rounded 23 to the nearest 10, and this becomes 20. Okay, so 23 to the nearest 10 becomes 20. Let's do another rounding. So let's write here, I'm going to round 39 to the nearest 10. Now, again, this is units, this is tens. So we're looking at the tens. We want to round this to the nearest 10. So this could be 30. Okay, but what we have to do is look at the next number next to the 3, and that's a 9. So this 9 is actually bigger than 4. Okay, So in this particular case, we're going to round up. So 9 makes this number go up 1. So this becomes 40. I don't want to get a cold. I've got the doors open today and it's getting cold now. Okay, so we've got 40 over here. And again, this is the nearest 10. Okay, so a lot of this you can do by just looking at the numbers next to it. And it sounds really easy, doesn't it? Oh, we've got loads of people watching. We've got Aman and Hannah. We've got Amaya and Samaya. Loads of people watching now. Brilliant. So let's have a look at what we're going to do next. Oh, Aidan and Shay are watching. Thank you for watching, guys. You submitted some work in yesterday. Brilliant. So we've rounded 2-digit number to the nearest 10. Again, 2-digit number to the nearest 10. Let's see what happens if we've got 3 digits now. So I'm going to have a 3-digit number. I'm going to write here 321. I still want to round it to the nearest 10. Okay, I still want to round this to the nearest 10. So what are we going to do now? Well, we've got units over here still. We've got tens over here. We've got hundreds over here. Okay, so I'm still interested in 10. So I'm going to put a little dotted line down here. So this is a number that's going to be rounded either up or down. Well, when you're rounding down, you don't do anything to it. So it's going to say 2, it's going to go to 3. We have to look at the unit. So you look at the next number next to it. It's a 1. Again, this is 4 or less. Okay, so the important bit here, and I might actually put this in a different, let's put it in black because this is really important. If it's 4 or less, I'm going to put a red box around it, then you do nothing. 4 or less, you do nothing. Okay, if it's 5 or more, so here, 5 or more, you round up. So I'm going to put that in red because this is the important bit in rounding. You round up. Okay, those are the 2 important things. So here, a 1, which category does it go in? Oh, we're here too, brilliant. Sarah's here, brilliant. Nicola's watching, excellent, brilliant, guys. Loads of you watching. So here, 321, is it 4 or less, or is it 5 or more? Well, we're looking at this digit here, that's less than 4. So this is going to get rounded, and the 2 is going to stay the same. But we have to put a 0 at the end to give it place value. If you miss that 0 out, we've got 32, which is nowhere near the number that you had. Right? Now, if you get confused with actually putting your place value digits in, think of it like money. If you owe someone 23, or if someone owes you £23, okay, and you're like, oh, give it to me to the nearest 10, okay? I don't think you'd be too happy if they only gave you £2, okay? The nearest 10 is going to be 20. If someone owed you £321 and you're like, okay, just round it up to the nearest 10. I think you'll be happier with 320 rather than 32, okay? So the place value is very important. So think of it as money, and then you'll make sure you're not going to get it wrong, okay? Right, so let's do another question here. We're going to make it slightly more difficult now. We're going to add some decimal places, okay? So we're going to have 45.6. 45.6. I want to round that up to the nearest whole number. Hold on. You need to write in brackets what you rounded it up. I nearly forgot. So this was nearest 10. Okay, so always in brackets, write down what you've rounded it up to. Okay. So let's have a look at this. 45.6. We want to round this up to the nearest whole number. Okay. I always keep saying round up. We don't know whether we're going to round up. We're going to round it to the nearest whole number. We're going to figure out whether we round up or the number stays the same. Okay, so let's have a look at 45. Nearest whole number, that's your whole number. This is a decimal. So my cutoff point now, don't forget there's a decimal point here, is here. You got your units, you got your tens, you got your tenths. I can't even write tenths. Tenths. Remember, this is tenths. So here what we've got now is 45.6. But the same rule applies. We're rounding up to the nearest whole number, so you look at the next digit. If it's 4 or less, you do nothing. If it's 5 or more, we're going to round up. This number is a 6. So what are we going to do? We're going to be rounding up. So in this particular case, we're going to have now 46. And I can write in brackets, nearest whole number. So that's how rounding works. And once you get the hang of it, it is not difficult at all. You're able to do lots of different questions and you're able to round up or keep the number the same by just looking at the next digit that you need to look at. Right, so let's do some more questions and see how you guys, I've run out of space. Could probably fit another, shall I fit another one over here? Let's change the color so you'll be able to see it. Let's use, I think I can fit one more in. I'll fit one more in on that page. Trying to find a different color. Okay, let's do it in brown. Okay, let's now do a number with 2 decimal places. So we've got 59.82. 59.82. We're going to do 2 things with this. First, we're going to round it to 1 decimal place. Then we're going to round it to a whole number. Okay, so imagine you've got £59.82p that you owe someone or someone owes you. Okay, and you don't want to be dealing with pennies. So you're like, okay, give it to me to the nearest 10 pence. Okay, so that person is going to look at this figure and the nearest 10 pence, that's 1 decimal point in this particular case. We're going to be looking at 1 decimal point. So we're going to be looking at this number over here. So 1 decimal point is here. This is 1 number after the decimal point. This is 2 numbers after the decimal point. Okay, so what we're going to be doing in this case is drawing a dotted line between the 8 and 2. We're going to look at the 2. Is it 4 or less, or is it 5 or more? It's 4 or less. Okay, we're looking at the 2 here. It's 4 or less, so it does nothing to the 8. So our number to 1 decimal place is 59.8. And in brackets, we're going to write 1 DP. DP means decimal place. Okay, there's 1 number after the decimal point. Okay, now we're going to go back to the original number. So we've got 59.82. Now what we want to do is to round it up to the nearest whole number. This is where it's going to get slightly more tricky. Okay, this is where it's going to get slightly tricky. So nearest whole number, we're looking at the whole number. We're not interested in the decimals. So our cutoff point now is between the 9 and the 8. Okay, so we're ignoring this line over here because this was when we were looking at 1 decimal place. We're now looking at a whole number. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to need a bit more space. So I'm going to move on to a new sheet of paper. Okay, but I'm going to leave that there so you guys can see. So I'm going to write here 59.82. Now I've said I'm looking at a whole number. So a whole number are cutoff points here. I'm not interested in any of the decimal places, but to be able to do rounding, you have to look at the next digit next to it. So this is where I'm going to, my answer is going to be two digits, whole number, but I need to look at the next number to figure out what's going to happen. So we've got an 8. Now, if that number was 4 or less, we would do nothing. If it's 5 or more, we're going to have to round up. But we have a 9 here. So if we round that up, that becomes a 10. How do we do that? Okay, so what you've got to do in this particular case is that you think of this as a whole number, so 59. So if we have to round up, we have to add 1 on this side. Okay, so that 59 now becomes 60. So we've just rounded up. It's become 60. Okay, so that's become 60, and that's our answer. So we write that whole number. Nearest whole number. Now, if you see in this particular case, both of these digits changed. Okay, because it affected this and that affected that. Okay, so you need to be slightly careful when you have a knock-on effect when you're rounding up or down. Okay, that's where students make a lot of mistakes, but you guys are going to be fab at this, so I don't think you will be making any mistakes. And it's fine if you make mistakes because you're learning. Right, let's do one more. Let's do, also notice, because I'm doing it to a whole number, I no longer include any decimal places. And we didn't include any decimal places here either, okay? Here we had to include the zeros because this gave place value. But remember, mathematicians are lazy. They don't like writing the decimal place of the zeros that come after a number if they're all 0. So this number has got a decimal point, 2 has a decimal point, and it's got hundreds of zeros. We talked about this in our decimal point lesson. Okay, so we've got loads of zeros here, but we don't write those in. Mathematicians are lazy, they just write that as 2. So this 60 is going to be 0.00000. We're not going to include that in there because we don't need it. You don't need that for place value. Right, let's do one more question. We're going to do 152.783. Okay, we're going to do lots of things with this question. First of all, I want you to round that to 2 decimal places. So we're going to make a little table. So this number is going to be rounded up into lots of different ways. Okay, so the first one is going to be to 2 decimal places. The second line we're going to do is going to be to 1 decimal place. The third line is going to be whole number. Whole number. The fourth one is going to be to the nearest 10. And then we're going to have to the nearest 100. Okay, so that's what we're going to do there. So let's take this number, 152.783. Right, first question, 2 decimal places. So I have to count 1, 2, put a line there. Okay, so I need to look at the next digit, which is a 3. That 3 is less than 4. So I do nothing. So my answer here is going to be 152.78 because it's 2 decimal places. I don't need to write the third number. Okay, next one, let's change color. 1 decimal place. So 1, and my cutoff point now is there. Okay, so I need to look at the next number next to it, which is an 8. That's 5 or more. So it's going to round up. So this 8 is going to affect the 7. So that's going to go up by 1. So my number now is 152.8. Okay, so far so good. Right, let's do another question now. So this is a whole number. So what we're going to do now is we're looking at the whole number. So this is our units. So that's a whole number. These are decimal places. So our cutoff point now is where that purple line is. So I look at that 7 now. That 7, remember, I'm always going back to the original number. I'm not looking at the rounded figures, always back to the original. That 7 is 5 or more. So this is going to round this bit up. So this becomes 153. Ooh. Right, next, we're going to look at the nearest 10. So I'm going to use a different color for this. So nearest 10, our cutoff point is here because that's our 10th. Now the next number is 2. 2 is 4 or less. So this does nothing to the 5. So in this particular case, we write 153. and 50. You have to write the 0 to keep the place value. Because if you write 15, that's completely different from our original number. Okay, right, finally, let's pick a different color. What color have I done? I haven't done orange. We're looking at the nearest 100. Cut-off point is here. This is your 100. Your 5 makes your 1 go up. So this becomes 2, and then you have to add your zeros for place value. Oh, nearest 100 is 200. So if someone owed you £152, 78 pence, and a little bit more, which one would you tell them to round it up to? You'd tell them to round it to the nearest 100 because you're going to get a lot more than what they owe you. Okay, so it's very important that you pick the right rounding for the right situation. Now, if you're going to be painting a house, for example, and that's how many liters of paint you need to paint like a whole school, it's not going to be a house, you're going to need that 152 liters to paint a whole school. You would get more paint rather than getting less paint. Okay, so you'd probably round it up, and you'd always round it up. You wouldn't round it down in that particular case. So it just depends on what you need to be doing. But thank you guys for watching. This has been the rounding math session. So I'm going to write over here. Right, remember to write your name. Remember to include hashtag maths with Sid. I want to see your colourful drawings. You can colour in your rounding. Okay, and let me know how you guys get on. So submit your entries in today and I shall be sharing them a bit later. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll speak to you guys. Oh, tomorrow is going to be a break. So Thursday and Friday, I am taking a break because it's the Easter holidays. And then I'll be back again on Saturday. Okay, so I'll be back again on Saturday and it's going to be science. So science on Saturday, and Sunday it's going to be art. So 2-day break gives you a chance to catch up on all the previous lives that you might have missed. And they're all on YouTube at Learn with Sid. So do share, do comment, do like, do share it with your mates, and let me know how you get on. So I'll speak to you guys soon. Bye.